I'll tell you how I got started, and I have some of my travelers are here with me too, so the Wesses were on the tour as well as a bunch of other people. I went with the Catholic Church. Father Todd set it up, and he went through a touring company that he was familiar with, and so he set it up. I heard about it, and so I called him, and I'm not a Catholic, so I called him, and I said, would you let 2 Methodists go with you? I said, we'll participate, and we did. We did readings, and we attended all of his masses. We had mass every day. So it was fun. We had a good time on the trip. So my sister-in-law traveled with me on this pilgrimage. And she had been in Israel before, but she'd gone on a Jewish tour. It was a bar mitzvah of one of her relatives. And so she hadn't seen the Christian part of the Israel. She'd seen the Jewish part of Israel. So it was a wonderful, wonderful adventure. I do want to tell you that there are basically 3 major faiths found there: the Christians, the Jews, and the Islamic. And you have several different groups of people in one place. You have Palestinians by ethnicity, you have Jews by ethnicity, not just religion, but ethnicity, and there are others there too. So it's a real mix of people and faiths. And I found it kind of interesting. You could run into people who, by birth ethnicity, they were Palestinian. By faith, they were Christian. And by passport, they were Israeli. So it's really an interesting combination of people that you run into over there. Most of the cities are walled in some parts. So walled cities are common to see there. And let me just show you some maps so you can get an idea of what Israel looks like. This is Israel today. And I want to point some things out to you that I found kind of interesting. The green, as you can see, is the Palestinian Authority. But then you see these little pieces in here that are white with little X's on them. This is where the Jews have gone into the West Bank. And they have cities there, and they're full-blown cities. Then there are roads, and you'll see these roads right here. These roads were built by the Israelites so they could go from place to place within their little confines that they had here. So it's a real mix of people. Another thing that's interesting is Bethlehem is under the Islamic. The Palestinians have that. And so when we went into Bethlehem, we went through a gate where there were soldiers and so forth. They didn't check us, but I kind of figured out why. We're money. Tourism is a big part of their economy all over Israel. So they welcome us as tourists. I don't know if they want us to move there or not, but anyway. But this is kind of how, when we landed in Tel Aviv, and then we went to Tiberius up here this is the Sea of Galilee. We saw areas around here, and then we came down to Jerusalem, and we did go to the Jordan River, and I have a picture, and Roger will be in the picture of the Jordan River. So that's what it looks like today. Okay, this is what it was like in Jesus' time. And there was the Samaritans, the Galileans, the Judea part. There were a lot of different peoples you can see in this area right here. And this part right down here is a real deserty-like area. This up here is more Mediterranean-like as far as what it looks like when you're there. We left Denver and we went to Munich, and then we went to Tel Aviv. And so this is our little traveling group out of Denver. We left in the snow, and we arrived many hours later in 80-degree weather in Israel. But there we are on our way. Our spiritual leader was Father Todd, which many of you may know, and our photographer was Roger West. And so what you have here are 2 people in charge of our things. This was the total group, and everybody, except for my sister-in-law and one other lady who was a sister of one of the people that went, were all from Chadron. or the Chadron area. The first place we went to was Tiberius, and these pictures were actually taken out the hotel window. It was a beautiful place. It really was a beautiful place to be. But notice what the houses look like. That's pretty much what the houses look like in Israel. And this area particularly has palm trees. That's the Sea of Galilee. So you can kind of see what it's like at that particular area. This is the area where Jesus did most of his sermons. And this is just another photograph of the Sea of Galilee. It's kind of fun. And this is outside. We were just taking pictures out of our windows of our hotel. The first place we went to was Caesarea, and this is an ancient port that's on the Mediterranean Sea. And it was built by the Romans when they invaded Israel. So they had an easy access from Rome to Israel for their people. And there's the big Colosseum there, and that's where we're sitting and listening to our guide. But they also had all kinds of things, like they had for horses, and it was a whole town they basically built in this area and for their port. This was also where Paul was imprisoned here at this particular port for a while. I don't believe he was killed here, but he was imprisoned here for a while. And let's see, there are several things that they told us about this area. It was very interesting. There's a cemetery there, we saw that, so it was an interesting place. One of the first places monasteries we went to was this one, Stella Maris. And I wanted to show you this because of how beautiful the paintings and the statuary is. Now, the rest of the city doesn't look so fantastic, but even the outside of the churches, they weren't real elaborate. But when you were inside, it was just absolutely gorgeous when you saw that. And I had been in Rome several years ago, and one of the things our tour guide told us when we went to the Vatican was that most of the people did not write or read. And so they couldn't read a Bible or anything like that. But they learned the stories from the pictures that were painted in there and the statuary that was there. And it's just gorgeous. Now, I want you to note this, agriculture in the area. I grew up on a farm, so I had to tell my family what they grew. They grow bananas, figs, and olives primarily. But I want you to notice that these are actually banana plants. You know, I always think of bananas as a big tall tree and they come draping down. But these are plants, and they do have the bananas coming down, but they're not big things like you would think they would be. But this is a netting over it, and the guide told us that it was to protect them from the sun, which I found interesting. I thought it would be bugs or something else, but it was that. Now, the next one I want to show you, I found this very interesting. See this little blue thing right here? That's bananas, a little stalk of bananas, and they put these coverings over them so they'll ripen faster. But when they do that, the potassium in the bananas are reduced, which as a family consumer science person, I thought, you shouldn't do that. That's not right. But anyway, that way they can get their bananas riper and to market faster. This is an olive tree. And the only way I can see that you could harvest the olives is to shake the tree and put a tarp underneath it. Seems like you wouldn't want somebody just picking all these things, I don't think. We did take a boat, and this is a semblance of the boat we were on. This isn't the boat we were on, but it looked like that. This is us, we're on this boat. And they flew the American flag because we were all Americans, which I thought was nice. We went across from Tiberius, we went across the sea, and we wanted to see this museum, and this is a fishing boat that they found in the Sea of Galilee, buried in the silt. And they assumed that would be like what they had in Jesus' time. We went to Magdala. This is the birthplace of Mary Magdalene. And this is real common. These are like baths, because there's water down in there. And they move their water around in troughs like this. And this has been an archaeological dig, so they have to, not everything is there, but you can kind of tell where the walls were, where the water drainage was, and so forth. This was a very interesting place, I thought. And I want to show you the death case. In that area, there was this case. And I did have to ask my minister when I got back, I thought you stayed in the tomb. I just assumed you buried him in the caves. And I'd been in the catacombs in Rome, and it's kind of like they're all stuffed in there in those caves. But what I learned from my minister was that they put them in the caves, and they put oil and the spices on them, the frankincense and so forth, until the body is totally decomposed. And once it's decomposed, then they put them in these boxes like this that they make out of stone. And I assumed that maybe if you were really poor, this would not exactly happen this way. But if you had some money, that maybe it would. And my minister also told me this, that the tomb Jesus was buried in is a virgin tomb. You may have known that. I didn't know that. And no one had used it, so there'd never been a body in there before. Once you become bones, then they put you in a box, and the size of the box depends on your largest bone. And they told us, or my minister told me, that the largest bone is this one, from here to here. So that's how long it will be. And it won't be very high. It'll just be enough to get all your little bones in there. This is the food, and I tell you, the food's wonderful. And I do have some recipes up here that I would really like for you to take, so I don't have to take them home. What you see in the middle, this is called St. Peter's fish. And I assume it's like tilapia. It's a white sort of fish. It was good, I thought. The bread they use looks like almost like pita bread that they have. And then they put all kinds of things into what they do. And let me just show you a few things. One of the things they eat are the falafels. And they're made, I didn't order one right off the bat because they're made out of chickpeas, and I didn't fried. They're fried, and then they're put in a little pocket, and then they put lettuce and tomatoes and all kinds of stuff on it, like a salad kind of. And I just wasn't brave enough to start it at first. I had a beef one. But later in the trip, I did try the one with chickpeas, and they're fine. They're really good. Anyway, this is how you make them, and I did make them when I came home, and I ordered the ingredients from Amazon. Amazon has everything. So when you see this and you say, well, I can't get that at our local grocery store, you can if you go online to get them. Then they took us to a place for desserts, and confit is how I say it, and I'm not sure how it's really supposed to be pronounced. But it was like a dried, really thin noodle that they fried, and then they put a sauce on it. It is super good. It was really good. And you can buy this stuff in the United States on Amazon. So we can have these anytime we want. Then I bought a book. Family consumer science person, I have to have a cookbook. I may not ever use it, but I have to have it. I did copy some of the salads because I thought they were kind of interesting. And the one that is my favorite, and I want to read the ingredients to you because you'll say, oh, you're kidding. I had to force people at my church to try it. You grate carrots, you add olive oil, and salt, but it needs to be kosher according to the recipe. And then you add horseradish and sugar and mustard and mix it together. And it's really good. I was shocked.
Is the horseradish grated?
Well, or just like what you'd buy in the store that, yeah. Not a big horseradish thing, yeah. But anyway, these are for you to take when we're finished, and you can try them at home.
Margaret, what's the pink thing?
Roger, do you remember what the pink thing was? Was it onions or?
I think it's the fish that came out of the Sea of Galilee.
Oh, yes, it is.
The pink.
Oh.
The fish came, the St. Peter's fish came there. I don't remember what that was.
Pretty.
But it has beets in it.
Yeah.
Oh, it could be. You're very likely it could
We
be.
had a lot of beets.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. The food, I thought the food was great. I love the food. And here's some more food things. I wanted you to see this. This is that dessert thing, up close and personal. But on the streets in the walled city of Jerusalem, or any of the cities actually, there would be ladies or people selling whatever they grew or got or whatever. And that's what that lady's doing. And then this man over here, he's selling some vegetable-ish sort of things also just on the street. The streets are very, very narrow in the walled city. As you would imagine, you can't, to get your produce or your things to your store, you have to use those little tiny pickup-like things, or a cart. We did see a lady who was pulling a cart to take her things to her store. We also went to where the first miracle was performed, at Cana, and Father Todd had those who chose to do so, they retook their vows. So it was very special for them. And I had one, here's Roger right here. And you can recognize some of the other people in there.
That's my usual travel uniform.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he's pretty khaki.
You just throw it into the shower and imagine dry out and ready to go.
Yeah. We went to many, many holy places, and they generally would build a church on top of whatever the holy place was, whether it was where Jesus' family lived or whatever. There was usually a church put over it, and some sacred places in it, and that's me at one of those. Many, many churches elaborately inside, they're very elaborate. Here's some more of the holy places that we saw.
So did they have services in each one of those churches?
We had mass in each one, yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And it was obvious in the one church we went into that depending on what tour you were with and what your denomination was, they were in different places. We were always in the Catholic one because Father Todd did and they had everything for us. They had the wine, the bread, the garb for him to wear and everything. It's very well set up, I thought. And I assume it would be the same for other groups that went in, Jewish people or whatever. And the tourists are, because this is a holy place for a lot of people, you'll see a lot of different religions and the people walking around and doing their thing. This is what they called the last walk, or the Stations of the Cross. And we went early in the morning, and the reason we did was because there's lots of people there, and that way we could stand at each of the spaces and read the passages about that particular station. And it was kind of neat to be at night, or early in the morning is what it was like. But notice how narrow all this area is. And when they talk about Jesus taking the cross and going to Golgotha, and there were people around, I don't know where they were. I don't know where you could be, because it's so small to me. Of course, we're used to a lot of space, so maybe that makes a difference. I was really impressed by this. And they called it the Way, and we had a little booklet that was in English or other languages, depending on what you wanted to speak. And you followed the little thing as we went through the stations. It was very impressive. Then we went to the Jordan River. And the Jordan River is dirty. And Father Todd would bless those who chose to be blessed and have the water on them. I did not choose to do that. I did not want to take my shoes off and get in that dirty water. And I wanted you to also see when Jesus went up into the mountains to pray, we're not talking the Rocky Mountains, we're talking serious stone mountains here. And then these are tires that are just thrown out there, but it's deserty and sandy, and you'll see. And that's one of the buildings they built. Actually, that building is right here. Wow. And they think that's where maybe Jesus went to one of his times at prayer. Oh, I want to tell you something about that. When we were at the Jordan River, there were minesweepers there. And that's kind of eerie to me. I mean, we don't have minesweepers very often come around. And they said, we were told that it was from the 67 war, and they must have just kind of worked their way up or something in the sand, and the minesweepers were out there. And also there were soldiers there, and they were so young. But you have to remember that everybody is a soldier. They have to spend their time in the military. So these were young people. And men and women both have to do that. I had a student here. She was from Israel. And she said that she had to go to military service. And after she did that, then she applied and came to Chadron State College. She played basketball for us when she was here. She's graduated now. But anyway, it was interesting to talk to the students too. This is the Dead Sea. And I'm kind of sorry I didn't get into the Dead Sea, but because you can float, it's salty, and you can just float. And I want to point out Roger. I'm sure he'll be delighted. That's Roger. And many of you know Don King. That's him. But anyway, people had fun floating around in the salty water. Now, Jerusalem is divided into sections. And this is the Jewish section, and I kind of grew up calling this the Wailing Wall, but that is not what they call it. It's the Western Wall. And it is a place of prayer, and the women go on one side and the men go on the other. Except on the women's side, I don't know about the men's, but on the women's side there were stools so you could stand up and look over into the men's side. And I couldn't figure out, I don't know what that was all about, unless they did bar mitzvahs there, and if you were the parent, the mother of one of the students in the bar mitzvah, you want to see it, so that would help to do that. But anyway, they tuck little prayers into the stone, and that's what that paper is that you see there. But there were a lot of people there when we were there. And like I said, they were walled cities, and this is the entrance into the walled city of Jerusalem, or one of the entrances. There's several, but it's one of them. Now, there is outside of the walled area, there is a huge, huge suburb, because it's a big place. So it's not like they don't have things more like what we have here in wider streets and so forth. Buses can get down and so forth into them. And the dome over there is the dome that's in it's a mosque. It's where the Holy Temple used to be.
So is are the walls, do they separate like the rich from the poor or everything, or it's just?
I didn't notice that. I don't know where the rich were, to tell you the truth.
Well, you hear that somebody lives on the other side of the track.
Yeah. I didn't notice that. I don't know. Did you all? Did the Wesses? Did you notice that?
I think the main division that I saw was the difference between the Muslim and the Israelis themselves, because they had the Western Wall that you look at on top. That's where you saw the buildings, and then the Muslims had a separate walkway so they could get up to the top. We didn't go up there. A little bit of a tense situation.
Yeah, it didn't look like we were wanted. Yeah, or at least our guide wasn't pushing us to do that. But we did go touch the wall, or I touched the wall. It was interesting. It was an interesting place to be.
I think the other thing too, the old city is like going through a rabbit warren. It's just all arches, little narrow streets, and they dig and they dig, and you're lost all the time.
Yeah. You did get lost, didn't you? I stayed close to the guide. I wanted you to see this because it shows the different areas of the city. This is inside the walled city of Jerusalem. And there's a Jewish section. This is where the temple used to be. And there's a mosque there now. And then there's the Muslim quarter, there's the Christian quarter, and the Armenian quarter. And we went through all of we walked all over there, and we felt just fine. I felt safe. You saw little kids running around here and there when school was out. And also something I thought was interesting was that the Christian schools were more popular than the Muslim or the Jewish schools for the people to send their kids to, even if you were a Jew or a Muslim. And I don't know why they thought I don't know the reason for that there, but I will tell you in England, Chadron State sends students to England every now and then to study or look at the schools in England and Ireland as well, but primarily England. And the English schools are all parochial. They're supported by the families and the government, but there are no public schools like we have. But if I was a Muslim, I could go to any of the schools I wanted to. I could go to the Catholic school or the Presbyterian school or whatever. My family could send me to whichever one they wanted. And so when you went to the schools, there were lots. There would be Muslim kids, there would be Christian kids. There weren't very many Jewish kids that I saw there, but there would be the Muslims and the Christians would be there. And they had religious things, but if you were, for instance, one of them was a Catholic school, and the Catholic kids went to Mass in the morning. The rest of them went to what I'd call a counselor that talks about bullying and all those things, the moral things you want kids to understand, which I thought was kind of interesting how they did that. So anyway, that's that. And this just shows you the wall a little bit more. And Bethlehem had a wall, and there's a lot of walled cities over there. This is what I thought was really, really impressive. And I understand that there's going to be some art from Israel in Denver pretty soon. So I think I might have to go to Denver to see the art. This you can see they're telling stories in the different pictures they have. But this one I thought I didn't like it, to tell you the truth, but in this particular church, it was a St. Mary's church of some kind. And different countries had pictures or statues of Mary that came from the country. This is the one that came from the United States. And the thing that's neat about it is this part right here came from a space ship we had, or capsule. So they made it out of that, which I thought was kind of interesting. I wouldn't say it was the prettiest thing there, but it was interesting how they did that. And here are some other pictures of the art that you would see in the churches. Just really beautiful things. And I do want to point out one thing that I didn't know, because, when I have the creche out and when Jesus was born, it's a stable and it's a little shed. It wasn't a little shed. It was a cave. And you'll notice here, this is a stone cave. And it was their place, it was where they kept their cattle, but it wasn't what we think of as a stable. And they didn't have wood, so wood is the reason that they didn't have, all their buildings are basically stone. or mason of some kind because there's not wood there. So anyway, and when we did go to one of the curio shops they took us to, you could buy caved crucius, which I thought would have been fun to buy, but then, you can only have so many, so. And then bring it home would be something else too, yeah. But anyway, they were beautiful. The art was just beautiful. We went to a place called Masada, and the story here, Jesus was probably never here, but the story here is that one of the rulers of Rome, and there were several Herods that were rulers of Rome, as I understand it, and so one of those Herods built this big complex here on top of a big plateau. And we went to visit it, and this is what it looks like today. We had to take a cog like you do for when you go to the Pikes Peak to get there, and that's what you see here. We're getting off and on of that cog. But it was built because the Jews were being persecuted by the Romans, and so Herod had kind of disbanded, didn't have anybody there, so they went there, and that way they could protect themselves better because you couldn't get horses or things up there very well. The way they got water was kind of interesting because they had these kind of water troughs that they could run water up to where they were. It was kind of interesting. And you'd have to take a mule to get up there. I don't even think a horse would do very well to get up there. It was kind of interesting. This is where my sister-in-law's, when they did the bar mitzvah, it was done at this place. So it was special to the Jews. This is the city of Haifa today. Haifa's on the Mediterranean Sea. And I just wanted you to see what a real modern city looked like over there. And this is what they kind of look like. And I also have one of Nazareth, so you can kind of see what it's like. You have littler cars there. You might want a little smart car or something. Notice that there's not much wood. It's mostly stone and masonry. And this is Jerusalem today. And see, there's a lady pulling a cart. She has things she's going to sell, foodstuffs. This is one of the open fruit markets. You can see what the streets and sidewalks where we walked. They're not very wide. And then these are the little kids that just got out of school when we went down that street. So we got to see the little kids. And here's some more of Israel today. See here, wouldn't you hate to drive in that? And there's little school kids. And then those of you that know me know that I like cats. And there were cats everywhere. So I took pictures of cats. And this is all of us that went on the trip at the Jordan River. And then if you would like to know a little bit about the West Bank area and the settlements, this is a pretty good video to tell you about that if you would like to know more about what they do today. It's an unusual way to live, I think, to have these two groups that don't really quite see eye to eye. But that's kind of what it is. And I want to show you some things I have up here. This is a Jerusalem cross. And my friends thought it was a trivet. But what it stands for is the four Gospels. And they make rings out of that are this shape, crosses like this, they're this shape, and you'll see if you see this, it's a Jerusalem cross. We were given gifts, and one of them was this cross, and it has the fish and the wine. You know, when he fed the thousands. And let's see. Oh, I do want to tell you about some things that, when I got back, my church wanted me to talk to the children. And, you know, they're not going to listen to something like this. At least ours aren't. I don't. And so what I did was a friend of mine gave me this. And it is you put some items in Easter egg, those plastic Easter eggs. And then there's a little verse that goes with it. And then you give it to all the little kids. And one by one, you open them up. And the very last one, you open it up, and there's nothing in there except the little scripture. And I'll have to tell you, the kids liked it, except the little girl that got the empty one. Because, you know, the rest of them, some of them had nail, one of them had nail in it, and one had a cross in it, and one had soap in it, and just various things that you put in it. And when she opened it up, her face just dropped. It's empty. It was so cute. I kind of felt bad. I should have put something in there. Anyway, if you would like to have one of these, please come take one of these as well. Then the other thing I did with the little kids, I took a map of old Jerusalem, or old Israel, the way it was probably when Jesus was there, and I rolled it up like a scroll, tied it up, and then I talked to them about that. Scrolls were what they wrote on. And they didn't have books like we have. They had these scrolls. And we undid the scrolls, and then I had them draw pictures. Like the Sea of Galilee, I had them draw a little fish. And I had them draw across where Golgotha is. And they were really good about it. I really liked it. So there are a lot of little things that you could do with kids. That's for sure. So, any questions?
What's that piece of music?
But I do want to tell you about the music. I have this, and Shawn and I are going to learn to do it. We're not very good right now, so we can't sing it. But I know, some of you may know this. I walked today where Jesus walked. And you might know this, Randy. Do you sing this one?
I don't recognize it.
You don't recognize it? This was written in 1937. That might be one of the reasons. But I'd like to read you the words. The song is beautiful, but we don't happen to have the ability to sing it right now. I walked today where Jesus walked in days of long ago. I wandered down each path he knew with reverent step and slow. The little things, they have not changed. A sweet peace fills the air. I walked today where Jesus walked and felt his presence there. My pathway led through Bethlehem. Ah, memories ever sweet. The little hills of Galilee that knew those childish feet. The Mount of Olives, hallowed scenes that Jesus knew before. I saw the mighty Jordan roll as in the days of yore. I walked today where Jesus walked, where all alone he prayed, the Garden of Gethsemane, my heart felt unafraid. I picked my heavy burden up, and with him by my side, I climbed the hill of Calvary. I climbed the hill of Calvary, where on the cross he died. I walked today where Jesus walked and felt him close to me. Isn't that a beautiful poem? The poem was written by a Daniel Tuhog, and then this guy, O'Hara, wrote the music. So you can blame O'Hara for all those runs. Thank you very much for listening.